Good morning, it's Anila Dhami. Welcome to the BBC Asian Network phone-in. And today I want to know, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? The taxi driver from Bradford was sentenced to life in prison for stabbing to death Glaswegian shopkeeper Asad Shah. And he said his victim, an Ahmadiyya Muslim, had disrespected the Prophet. And as he was led from the dock yesterday, Ahmed raised a fist and shouted in Arabic, "Praise for the Prophet Muhammad, there is only one Prophet." And it's a cry that was repeated by some supporters in the public gallery. And Ahmed murdered a man in cold blood. Yet some think he's justified in his actions. Does this surprise you? Call us.
Anila Dhami.
Thanks, Nikesh. Now, I'm asking, are you surprised how much support there is for Tanveer Ahmed? After all, he is a murderer. He stabbed to death Glaswegian shopkeeper Asad Shah, who's an Ahmadi, because he disrespected, in quotation marks, the Prophet Muhammad. And sentencing at the High Court in Glasgow, the judge said that the killing was an appalling display of merciless violence. Again, that was in quotation marks. Ahmadis differ from other Muslims in their belief that the Prophet Muhammad was not the final prophet. As he was led from the dock yesterday, Ahmed raised a fist and shouted in Arabic, this in quotation marks, "Praise for the Prophet Muhammad, there is only one prophet." And then this cry was repeated by some of the supporters in the public gallery. Now, does this shock you? Ahmed murdered a man in cold blood, yet some think that he's justified in his actions. Does this surprise you? I mean, it happens in Pakistan, but is it becoming a problem here? Do get in touch and let me know what you think. You can call me on 0. That was the song Teri Meri from the film Bodyguard. And today I'm asking, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? Let's go straight to the phone lines. I've got guests, Khalil Yusuf, who's the Deputy Director of Communications for the Ahmadi community, and Shiria Khatun, who is the Chair of the Shanaz Network, joining me today. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you very much for joining me today. Khalil, I'll come to you first. Are you surprised?
By what?
Are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions?
No, I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, there are a very small minority of people with extremist views. It's most unfortunate that they do hold those views, but the reality is that we do have those challenges, and it's important for all of us to unite together to ensure that we rebalance the narrative about Islam and also give people the right information so that they no longer hold these extremist views.
I mean, what do you think could be done then to balance that narrative?
Well, I think this programme is part of it, and the media taking a responsible approach and ensuring that they report on matters in a balanced way is part of it. But also Muslims and non-Muslims alike need to give the opportunity for the true peaceful teachings of Islam to be aired. You see, the more that we learn about the true peaceful teachings of Islam, the less opportunity there is for those people to misuse the perspectives of extremist clerics and to have a view that would potentially cause harm to others. So I think that the religious views of Muslims who hold peaceful beliefs, as well as the views of other religious groups as well, should be given ample opportunity to be aired in the media. And of course, they should do as much as they can to try and demonstrate how much good value true peaceful religion brings to society.
Khalil, you did mention extremists there, and actually we don't quite know who was in the public gallery, but why do you attribute the support to being people who are extremists?
Well, in my view, anybody who supports the murder of an individual doesn't hold views that are akin to what we would expect in a modern, free and safe society. So, in my view, anybody who has a view in which they support the murder of an individual is in my view, extreme.
There might be some people out there who don't actually support Tanveer's actions and the fact that he committed a murder, but they might be understanding towards why he did it. What what do you think needs to be done with that? And what would you say to that?
That's a really fair point that you make, because the truth is that all Muslims are really very hurt when the character of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is harmed in any way. And I fully understand that. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community fully understands that. And we are similarly extremely upset if the character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is denigrated in any way. But the question is, well, what should you do in those circumstances? And in those circumstances, it is right for Muslims, first of all, as Islam requires, to invoke Durood, which is a prayer on the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. In more than 1,400 years, there have been opponents of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. They have not been successful in destroying the message of Islam, and they never will be. So I think responding, first of all, with prayer is the most important thing. But the other thing that Muslims can do is they can follow the example of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. And his example was not to engage in violence or these sorts of horrific crimes, but in fact he engaged in discussion. He even wrote to the emperors. He wrote to the Emperor of Persia, I believe, letters to Caesar, kings of Ethiopia and Egypt. He used, what was media at the time, in the defense of Islam. He in fact, there were times when there were enemies of Islam who he had pardoned, and I'm thinking of Iqama, who was son of Abu Jahal. So the Holy Prophet's response was not to behave in the way that some extremist people would behave. It was, in fact, to engage in showing the true peaceful teachings of Islam. And I think that is the way that Muslims should respond when the character of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is attacked, and the way perhaps that Tanveer Ahmed should also have responded, rather than this heinous crime on an innocent individual.
Khalil, when you see incidents like this happen, where the Prophet is sometimes, there is that kind of, people feel like the Prophet is being disrespected. How do you feel?
I feel extremely upset. I mean, we are very upset. Yeah, when there were the caricatures, for instance, or where there was a film about the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, that was incredibly disrespectful. But the way that we, as a community, behaved was, we had a worldwide campaign on the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. We engaged with the media worldwide. We had a book, The Life of Muhammad, which we distributed. We had Holy Quran exhibitions. We did everything that we could. We had bus campaigns. We've got a website, loveforall.hatredfornone.org, which talks about the true peaceful teachings of Islam, and other websites which really give examples of the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. So, we use peaceful means, but we are absolutely determined to ensure that we defend his name, and we use every available means to that. We've got a television station on Sky Channel 787, which runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've got a Voice of Islam radio. So, this is not here to plug what we do. It's just to answer your question, which is that we do everything that we can, use every available resource to try and rebalance the perspectives on Islam so that people understand its true peaceful teachings, and to defend the life and character of the Prophet. And if I could just make one other point. Yeah, sure. Every year we have a massive and worldwide annual convention, which we're having actually this weekend. It's quite timely, in which about 30,000 people come to a site that we have in Hampshire, in which we talk about how Islam unites people of all colours, of all faiths, and it is a great opportunity to see how Islam in practice provides a way of uniting society and not dividing society. Okay, thank you for your comments, Khalil. Stay there. I'm going to bring in Shiria. Shiria, thanks for joining us today. Tell me, what do you think? Are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of Tanveer Ahmed?
I am actually. I am quite surprised that there were people in the public gallery supporting somebody who brutally murdered, took the life of another Muslim. It's just unacceptable. I was quite shocked, not surprised, shocked to hear that there were those people in that gallery. I think, people who are practicing Muslims, and I agree with Khalil, as a practicing Muslim, you are taught when you read the scriptures, you are taught through the scriptures, and by studying the life of our Prophet, you are taught how to actually respect people, regardless of their background, regardless of their views and so forth. And let's not forget that during the time of the Prophet, he went through lots of hurdles in his lifetime, whether it was abuse, insults thrown at him, and how did he deal with it? Through conversational debate. Through talking, through engaging with words rather than taking up weapons. And so I feel that those people who are using Islam to defend their atrocious acts of brutality is not studying Islam properly or hasn't studied Islam properly. I am practicing myself, and the more I research about Islam, the more I learn about how tolerant you are. Even simple things like quarrelling is to be avoided. The Prophet has made it clear that you need to avoid quarrelling, whether it's with your friends or somebody you know, because it makes you unhappy. Islam is a religion about how you keep yourself happy, how you keep people around you happy. It's not about violence. And those people who use religion to carry out horrible, barbaric acts, they are not Muslims.
Sharia, like I said to Khalil as well, we don't quite know who was in the public gallery and were kind of giving their support, but some of them may have been family members. Now, if you were a family member of Tanveer, or if you were in this situation, would you have been in the public gallery and would you have supported those actions?
Regardless of whether you are a family member or not, you stand in the path of righteousness. Somebody who has taken the life of another human being, that is not right. And therefore, I will never support anyone who, I will not support anyone who feels that they need to support somebody like Tanveer. That's absolutely unacceptable. And the more people that go around supporting somebody like him, what you are then creating is that it's okay to support somebody who's taken somebody's life. No, it's not. Whether you're a Muslim or not, you do not have the right to take anybody's life. It's not in your gift to do that.
Sharia, thanks for that. And I want to know from you, if you were a family member of Tanveer, if you were a family member of anyone who had committed a crime in the name of supporting, or if somebody had committed a crime because they felt that someone had disrespected the Prophet Muhammad, would you be in the public gallery supporting them? Do get in touch and let me know. I've got Bhagwant Singh on the line from Manchester. Hello.
Hello.
Tell me, would you, if you were a family member in that public gallery, would you have been supporting Tanveer's actions?
I think I'll shoot him.
What was?
But that's going to the extreme. It's ridiculous. The thing is,
Bhagwant, you can't say things like that on air. But you would, let's say, you would support his actions. Then
I would be able to cope with that idea if my family member were to do something like that.
So you wouldn't support his actions, but then you said that you would commit some kind of violence in.
No. That's going over the top.
Okay.
But basically, I grew up as a child in a very Islamic community. And that was abroad in Singapore. And there's so much of understanding, so much of love, so much of affection. We used to look after each other, and there's no such problem with, we being totally of a different faith. And in fact, in our community, when the local mosque was being built, we all contributed. Our parents, being Sikhs, also contributed to the place being built because we felt that it's something for the benefit of our neighbors. So, and likewise, they participated in our family events, and it was perfectly all right. So, and that is, we're practicing a totally different faith. Now, in the case of this situation, I followed this case quite closely.
Okay.
And from the day it happened, and I was stunned. And the thing is, you have the Ahmadiyya community, which emerged in Pakistan, India, in the 1850s, and as a kind of revivalist, or as a kind of a updating of the thinking among the Muslims, and it has got a strong following in India, in Pakistan, and the major Islamic communities actually reject them and saying that and whatnot. But the fact is, they still accept the tenets of Islam. And they still accept the value systems of Islam.
Well, which is disputed, which is disputed by some.
Much closer to the Islamic thinking than us, who are practicing a totally different faith. If they can be nice, loving, and caring and understanding with people who are totally different, why can't they look after somebody who's got a slight shade of a difference within them and carry on? I mean,
fair question, Bhagwan, and thank you so much for getting in touch with us.
Before you get off,
okay.
Just one thing is, what makes me think that this is happening is because the people who are actually practicing the main ideas seem to suffer some kind of a fear that these slight variations are going to create a big exodus of their followers away from their faith, and therefore they have to act in extreme ways just to try and protect that process, which is sad, but that's the way it is.
Bhagwan, thank you so much for joining us. Khalil, I want to bring you in here because, Bhagwan did mention the Ahmadi community, of which you are Deputy Director of Communications for. And you did mention how Islam unites people, but what would you say in that respect? Because some people would say that, obviously Asad Shah was from the Ahmadi community as well. What's your take on this?
There's 2 points. I think if I could just quickly comment on the point about family members, and I think that, look, family members might have had a view about their loved ones, and I think that the response to those family members is that they should follow the teachings of the Holy Quran, and the Holy Quran requires us all to act with truth and to act with justice, even if that is against our own. And equally, where you have people that have views that are not necessarily in line with our own, despite them being so abhorrent, that doesn't necessarily mean that we should demonize them. What we should do is we should give them the information so that they're able to rebalance their views. And that is the beauty of Islam. Islam doesn't just cast people away. It requires a responsibility on all Muslims, Ahmadis and others, in order to show what the true peaceful teachings of Islam are, so that they are able to change their perspectives. It isn't, in my view, the right approach simply just to demonize any individual. On the point of Ahmadis and them being non-Muslim, I think this is a really important point here, because the underlying assumption that is made and is often heard in the media and elsewhere is that, well, Ahmadis are non-Muslim, and as soon as you kind of have this categorization of Ahmadis as being non-Muslim and this kind of perspective that the entire Muslim world feels that Ahmadis are non-Muslim, it begins to become the starting point of a justification for people to commit harm against the Ahmadiyya community. And the truth is that it is not true that Ahmadis are regarded as non-Muslims by everybody. There was the Muslim community has done a very great deal to try and deal with the likes of ISIS, and to try and respond to it in a way that shows people that Islam is not akin with, should not be aligned with terrorism. And in doing so, in September 2014, about 175 of the world's most influential Islamic leaders, professors and academics. It was something called a letter to Baghdadi, which is on their website, wrote an open letter to ISIS, and that included the likes of His Excellency the Sultan Muhammad Saad Abu Bakr, head of the Nigerian National Supreme Council for International Affairs, His Royal Highness Prince Ghazi from Jordan, and some very kind of high-level figures. There's about 175 of them, and what they said there in relation to this concept of takfir, which is, regarding people as non-Muslims, is that if you don't mind me just quoting this, because it's a really important point.
Okay, quickly, because we are coming. Yeah, go on.
Sure. It is that there are some misunderstandings about takfir, and this is as a result of exaggeration of some Salafi scholars who declare people non-Muslim. What he says is that quintessentially in Islam, anyone who says there is no God but Muhammad, there is no God but God, and Muhammad is a messenger of God, is a Muslim and cannot be declared a non-Muslim. And there are a number of quotes in there from Hadith, including the references to the founder of the Jihadi movement.
I'm going to have to stop you there, but thank you so much.
In which it regards Ahmadis as Muslims.
Khalil, we are running out of time, but thank you so much for joining us, and we will come back to you later. I am asking, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? Do get in touch. You can call me on. So I'm asking you today, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? Quick background on this is that Tanveer Ahmed killed a shopkeeper, Asad Shah. Asad's from the Ahmadi community, after he saw videos posted by Shah online in which he felt he was disrespecting the Prophet Muhammad. When he was sentenced, he had some support in the public gallery. So I want to know, are you surprised by that? Do get in touch and let me know. You can call me on 03459 440 445. You can send me a text on 81869, or you can WhatsApp me 07920 500 200. Or send me an email, nihal@bbc.co.uk. Layla got in touch via text. These people who agreed to murder are a disgrace to their so-called religion. What would Prophet Muhammad say about murder in his name? Don't think he'd be too happy. No religion is above the law. A text with no name. The bottom line is murder is a crime in this country. And WhatsApp message from a Muslim in Bradford. Not surprised the slightest. I was telling my non-Muslim work colleagues yesterday morning that some Muslims will hail Tanveer a hero for his actions, then going on to explaining why. That's pretty shocking. I mean, have you been in that position where you've kind of had that discussion and you expected that some Muslims would call Tanveer a hero for what he's done? He has essentially committed murder. But he did receive some support in the gallery. So, but did you expect that he would be called a hero for what he's done? Get in touch and let me know. I've now got guest Judge Khurshid Drabu on the line, who is an advisor to the Mosques and Imams National Advisory Board. And I also have another guest, Abdul Hussain, who's a student in Glasgow. Judge Khurshid Drabu, I'll come to you first.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to know, are you surprised that some people are supporting Tanveer Ahmed?
Let me put it this way. I'm surprised that this issue is attracting some attention because, in every community, there are people who have, warped ideas and are stupid enough to justify something that is completely unjustifiable. As your callers have said, many of them, that murder is murder. And it is not acceptable for any reason at all, except those reasons which are, permissible under law.
Yeah.
This person was from a community that is not regarded as truly Islamic or Muslim. But that is not the function of any human being as to what religion a person belongs. So it's a matter between him and his Lord or God or Allah. Because Allah is the ultimate judge and he will judge people accordingly. And Allah in Quran has said that the gates of heaven are not closed to other faiths because according to Quran, There is no compulsion in religion. People can choose what they want to be. And we as Muslims are enjoined, are asked to ensure that we live in peace and harmony, respecting the differences, accepting the differences.
Do you think, I mean, we're talking about these differences here, do you think the Ahmadi community are accepted by the wider Muslim community?
It depends on what you call the wider Muslim community, unfortunately. You see,
because there are differences in beliefs, aren't there? But the Ahmadi community...
Very minor ones. Minor ones. Let me explain. You see, as far as our scriptures are concerned, they're the same.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Ahmadi community do regard themselves as Muslim.
Of course.
Regardless of these differences. But do you think that they are then accepted as being Muslim?
Unfortunately, not amongst a tiny minority of Muslims in this country. They come with a cultural baggage, which then determines their thinking. You see, this issue has become important only of late, since General Ziaul Haq and this Bhutto, when they came into power, they decided what to do with this community. In the past, Pakistan's the most famous and the most, noble foreign minister was a guy called Sir Muhammad Zafarullah Khan. He was an Ahmadi.
Okay.
Or they called him Qadiani. But he was the foreign minister, and he was a great debater, great scholar, and he was, he represented Pakistan in the United Nations. But of late, small little trivia is picked by people with a vested interest and agenda and conflated into big issues.
Do you, as an advisor to mosques and imams, the National Advisory Board, do you think that enough is done by religious leaders to create that kind of unity between the two, and rather than focusing on the differences, uniting them?
Yes, I completely agree that we need to do a lot more, and we haven't done enough.
Okay.
And it's a responsibility not just of the elders, but of the whole community to understand that Islam teaches tolerance and peace. That is what we must do.
What have you done?
We haven't done enough. I think what needs to happen is imams need better training, mosques need better governance, but it all needs resource. These activities don't happen. They have to be made to happen. People have to subscribe and ensure that this happens as a matter of course. Every mosque needs to have funding for this, generated by their own congregations, not by the government. Government doesn't have this responsibility. Government has a responsibility to keep keep social cohesion, irrespective of one's faith.
Okay.
So I think what needs to happen is there has got to be equality of funding from the government on social cohesion matters. Muslims require it the most at the moment because we are in the limelight.
Okay.
Small little things are conflated, are, made into big issues.
Do stay with us. I'm going to Mahmoud now, who's on the line. Thank you for calling in. Tell me, what are your views on this?
Oh, hello. Yeah. I'm an Ahmadiyya Muslim myself. Born and brought up in the UK. And I've also, travelled frequently to Pakistan, family holidays and that sort of thing. And what I found is that this sort of thing would rear its ugly head when I used to go for trips to Pakistan. There was a lot of prejudice over there.
Okay.
And it then later on began to manifest itself over here, which was a worrying trend back in the 90s when I was at university.
Yeah.
And it suddenly became a big problem whereby, that sort of prejudice that started in Pakistan began to creep over here. I mean, it's all part of...
What kind of things happened that you experienced in Pakistan and then experienced here?
In Pakistan, we weren't allowed to say we were Ahmadis. I remember once, sort of mentioning the fact, and my cousin, I was very young at the time, and he said, "Oh, you mustn't mention that because obviously, that would put us in danger." And that was in Lahore, which is a metropolitan city.
Okay.
And that was during my childhood, and then later on, back here when I was at university.
Yeah.
I mean, during the school days back in the 80s, I think it wasn't a big issue. And a lot of my friends at school, we were Sunni, there were Sunnis and, other groups.
Yeah.
And we all got on very well. It's only when there was the rise of this sort of, Hizb ut-Tahrir and other groups such as that, and obviously and a lot of sort of the export of that sort of intolerance and bigotry that began to come from Pakistan over to here. That's when things started to get bad. And that manifested itself at university, where I was sort of being sort of effectively barred from praying in the prayer room, and being, termed as, an infidel, kafir or whatever,
Does that scare you? I mean, does that make you feel reluctant about telling people here that you're an Ahmadi?
Not at all. I mean, I'm a proud Ahmadi Muslim, and the reason I'm proud of being an Ahmadi Muslim is because we are the only force within Islam, I think, that is looking to change the order of things. And it's interesting. One of your previous callers, a Sikh caller, mentioned, the reason why the mainstream, Wahhabist, Sunni, ISIS sort of axis seems to be very worried about us, is because we represent a version of Islam that is revivalist, and it's there will be some people who follow Islam that would disagree with that, though. I'm sure they would, but the thing is that's obviously an opinion that everybody has their own personal opinion. But the facts, as I see them, are that we represent a threat to those people, the existing order within mainstream Islam, and that's something that the Wahhabists, especially, people like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other people, they really are worried about that, because we have the largest network of independently funded mosques in the entire world. Every other mosque in the world virtually is either funded by a government, or, through grants or whatever it might be, or is affiliated to the state. And we represent a counter to that.
Mahmood, I want to know, because you said that you think that this threat is kind of getting worse, these divisions. Sure. What do you think needs to be done? Because I did ask my guest, Khurshid Drabu, whether he feels that the religious leaders are doing enough. What do you think needs to be done?
Well, I think that there are couple of things. One is that we have to present the example of the Prophet Muhammad and his companions, more prominently. The way they dealt with intolerance and persecution, because that's what they had to deal with as well. And that needs to be presented to the mainstream Muslim audience in a much more effective way. And secondly, I think this is a theological issue, and I think it needs to be dealt with on theological grounds. I think most people try and skirt around it by sort of, talking about communities and, cohesion and all that sort of thing. That's all very well. But I think that it can be confronted through the theology of Islam itself. I mean, if Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, in Medina, when he had when he was given refuge in Medina, and then was later on elected or appointed to rule that area, was a pluralist and a secularist in that respect, because he actually
according to your beliefs there, Mahmood. Do you?
No, not necessarily. Sorry, I just want to. That's historical. That's an historical point. I mean, that's a historical fact that basically in Medina, every person. There's a thing called the Constitution of Medina, which is the first ever written constitution which affords rights to all citizens, regardless of their faith. That's a fact. That's not my opinion.
What I want to know is, as an Ahmadi Muslim, do you have non-Ahmadi Muslim friends? Do you make a conscious effort to mix and mingle?
Absolutely. I reach out to them all the time. And but like I say, for instance, some of my school friends that I've got in touch with after maybe 25 years, there has been a sea change in their attitude towards someone like myself. I'm seen as being sort of out of the pale now, whereas before. How have you noticed that change?
What kinds of things are you seeing?
I mean, I can give you an example of one friend that I had who, but we were literally best friends. And when I've got back in touch with him over a long period of, we sort of lost touch over a few years. we got back in touch, and I could palpably see that, obviously my being an Ahmadi Muslim was a big problem for him, and I think it was pressure from his family, because I think a lot of the older generation seems to be carrying those prejudices and passing them on to the younger generation now, which is a real shame. Where really what you would expect is that when you come to a country where you do, where you have a semblance of sort of freedom of expression and freedom of speech, which is also an Islamic value, that's something that would hopefully rub off on them, and they'd be able to sort of, overcome these, backward prejudices that have nothing to do with Islam and everything to do with medievalism and mullahism,
Mahmood, thank you so much for calling in today and sharing your views with us. I want to go to Abdul now. Abdul, you're a student in Glasgow. Tell me, you want to tell me about the kind of sentiment and feeling in Glasgow at the moment, don't you? Tell me what is the feeling there?
It's quite tense in terms of the feelings in Glasgow, because everyone's quite. In living in Glasgow, the Muslim community is very tight knit. We are all we may have like different mosques, but we all follow Glasgow Central Mosque, if you will.
Right.
So we are united in that sense. It's just what happened with Asad Shah is obviously extremely abhorrent and unfortunate, and even within Islam, we are obliged to accept the rules of the country that we stay in. So despite what's being said or whatever, Tanveer Ahmed did act in an extrajudicial manner. So, and it's made, and one of the things that, straight away happened after the murder of Asad Shah it was like, this is going to make community cohesion a lot more difficult, actually.
I do want to ask you, are you surprised that people are supporting Tanveer's actions? Because, you've spoken about the laws of the country and that people should abide by the laws no matter what. And obviously, murder is a crime. He's been given a life sentence. But are you surprised that some people are supporting Tanveer's actions?
100%, I am not surprised.
You're not surprised?
Not surprised at all. Most of the prejudice regarding Ahmadiyyas does come from the Indian subcontinent, and obviously a large population of the Muslims in the UK are from that area. You've got, the main movements within the Indian subcontinent are the Deoband movement and the Brailwi movement. I won't mention which one I'm part of, but I'll just say that both of these movements don't acknowledge at least the status of Ahmadiyya as Muslims. So that kind of policy kind of brushes onto the beliefs of the people who practice, who are part of those movements. So I'm not at all surprised, especially after what happened with the governor of Punjab when he was killed as well in Pakistan, the governor. And it was his bodyguard that done it because he spoke out against the blasphemy laws there. So, and people here would support what happened there as well. So it's really not surprising at all that people do support it, even though it is, like I say, completely unfortunate.
You're a student, and I was speaking to Mahmood, who called in about his kind of university life, and he lost a friend because he follows the Ahmadi belief rather than a different belief within the Islamic faith. Have you ever experienced anything of that kind? Or have you ever stopped speaking to someone because they follow slightly different variation to your belief?
I mean, it's happened to me, but I've encountered someone who's off the Ahmadi persuasion, but it's not something that would, it's enough to me to stop talking to them.
Right.
We will have, like I said, we have differences in belief, there are variances in belief, and we'll have a discussion on those. But if you're going to let that slide into your personal life, then it's quite immature. You need to acknowledge that we're not in Pakistan, we're in Britain. There are Hindus here, there are Sikhs here, there are Christians here, everyone is here, and we need to coexist. It's not like other countries where, unfortunately, minorities are oppressed.
Abdul, thanks so much for calling in and joining us today. I'm asking, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? Do get in touch and let me know. Now I'm asking you, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? I spoke to Abdul just before the song, and he was telling us about the kind of mood and sentiment in Glasgow. I've now got Ash on the line. Ash, welcome. You're from Bradford.
I am, yes.
Can you tell me what is the mood like in Bradford?
I think the mood in Bradford is when this first happened, within like the first day or so, there was like these videos were being shared along WhatsApp and other means on social media of what Asad Shah was supposed to have said, and it kind of gave me this feeling like that there's a lot of people that kind of like were not condoning what Tanveer Ahmed had done. And now the feeling is what I've noticed as well is I'm not originally from Bradford. I moved up here 5 years ago, and one thing I've noticed about Bradford itself is even though you got different sects of Muslims, there seem to be a lot more sticking to their own and not willing to engage with one another. Is like where I've lived in other cities where you don't get so much of this happening. And here in Bradford, it does. To me, in my opinion, it does actually seem like there is people who are sort of supporting it silently.
Okay, and of course, I asked that because Tanveer is from Bradford.
Yeah.
So you're not really that surprised that people are supporting his actions?
No, I'm not surprised, and I genuinely believe that yesterday these people that were actually supporting him should have been done for contempt of court or pulled into something, because it's just wrong. If you have got a difference, what the Prophet, peace be upon him, would say is you sit down, you talk. Yes, there is different sects of Islam that believe in different religions. You've got your Shias, you've got your Sunnis and whatever. What's wrong with sitting down and like talking about these differences and to go and kill an innocent person? What did he gain out of it? Nothing.
Ash, thank you for joining us on the show today. I have been asking you, are you surprised that some people are supporting the actions of murderer Tanveer Ahmed? We've had lots of calls, lots of messages, and, it's been quite mixed, but most people have said, actually, they're not really that surprised.